In with talking, we thought we'd show you our very own hand-created piece of performance art, which is excellent. So prepare yourselves. Here we go.
I'm the general manager of the community group. So this is a business for the community, by the community. And the idea is that lots of people have skills and they wanted to share it. So in this business, times in currency. For example, Dundee had skills in drums and it was willing to give some of his time to share these skills. And at the same time, it thought it would be really cool to learn how to make scones because it really loves eating them. So the chef now is giving him skills in baking scones. Business sustainable. We also have some economic revenue from the cafe, and this is a place for people to meet and discuss and decide on a skill share. This is Amy, one of our volunteers.
Hello, hello. I work in the cafe and I'm volunteering here. And for all the time that I've been in the cafe, I also get free classes of all the different skills. So I like twerking. Look at me twerk.
That was the educational video. So we group all together with the theme of relationship because there was something that was really interesting for us. So we were looking at sustainability more in a social way than in an ecological way. Um, so we started to go in the streets and ask people. The idea is that people have skills they're not using at work, then they maybe want to have the opportunity to use in other ways. So we went in the streets, we talked with people and asked them what was their item skills. And yeah, hidden skills or new skills, and we got some really interesting responses. A very broad range. We had tango dancing, we had wood making, photography was really popular. A lot of people put down acting and music, and we had some really interesting ones which I'm still not entirely sure what they are. But we brought those back and had a look at them, and we weren't really sure at first what to do with them because we had such a wide range of skills that it seemed difficult to pull them together. So we thought that we look at the theme as well was AB3, and we had the fourth person of the group who's not here today who told us that A plus B equals 3 in the Arabic language. So we thought about this idea of summing two different entities, and it makes something in a different language, in a, like an exponential value out of the sum. So we wanted to come from this idea of amplifying something existing. And because we are very, very interested in that relationship, we thought, okay, so how can we sum all of these people and all of these skills and make something even bigger? One of the things we saw in Dundee was there lots of space were unused, and actually the community always looking for more time and space to do that, to develop their skills, to maybe learn new skills and to share skills. So the idea was to take an empty space and transforming in the community use. So that would be a project designed by community and for the community. The idea is to have a massive investment in starting up this business, but then this business would, the community would become sustainable. And for that, we designed the space in a kind of 3 layers. There would be, the first layers would be a public space, so it would take the form of a cafe, where we would have economic revenue from it. So a place to meet, to discuss and share, and maybe start to develop projects. And then we have the second layer would be like the community space, would be workshops where we actually share skills, develop skills, and learn new skills. And then the third layer would be the management, because this kind of place needs some structure system to get sustainable. So the revenue of the cafe would kind of inject money in the management structure. It would run all the place. And the most interesting part for us would be the community space where people will exchange skills, and this where we imagine that time could become a currency. So people come and say, I can give my time for this special skills, but I would like to develop another skills, and they will kind of exchange like this. They create a system where you give time and then you receive time. So you give skills and you receive skills, and it actually creates a whole community, all of it.
I think, yeah, and I mean, other ways looking at the ecological side of it, we try and integrate that. So we've got the cafe down here, we try and work with local groups, allotments. I mean, I think it was actually another group's piece of research that we nicked, and that found out that allotments are always growing a lot of food, but obviously, especially if you're just feeding one person, you always end up with an excess. So trying to get other community groups working with us. I mean, I'm sure in Dundee there are a lot of different setups. I mean, we've already seen some today and yesterday. So it would be really important to make those connections, to make it all stronger. And yeah, just the fact that instead of paying in money for a workshop that you would attend, you would pay in labour. So in a way, it is more equal, because for some people paying £10 is nothing. For some people paying £10 is like, so what am I going to eat this week? Whereas working for 2 hours in a cafe, you know, it's people all there for the same time, putting in the same effort. So that was the idea behind the time currency, as opposed to charging for classes.
Okay. So in the process of it would need a big investment in the beginning, because you need to rehabilitate the space and to create all the facilities. So you would need to get some funds for the local government or the national one. But once it's there, the revenue from the cafe would make it all sustainable, and the community can also imagine other kind of activity and service that it would bring money into the system.
Definitely. I think that covers most of the bits and pieces. I'm sure we'll have forgotten something important, but we'll tell you all what it is when we do. Anything else that you want to add? Puppetry will, of course, be on the curriculum. It's one of our first classes. But thank you very much.
I think that just what you said there about the time being the currency, and like, you know, people value money differently. I think that's like actually really important to sustainability. You know, that's a massive change, you know, going from valuing things in terms of money, where people look at it differently, to time, which is really quite, you know, unanimous across the whole spectrum of wealth ranges and, you know, types of people. But my question is, how do you plan on keeping track of the currency?
Well, we were thinking about having an online system where you would have like a kind of membership cards where you can accumulate
Yes, accumulate.
like time points or like something you can track with this.
Something like
So you would need to invest in the community before receiving from it.
And an idea that James had, it was about, you know, those coffee stamp cards that you get, where if you get 10 stamps, you get a free one. That would be a non-internet way, because obviously a lot of people may not have access to internet, or may just not like internet. So, you know, bringing the sort of 10 stamps, you get a free class, or 10 is a bit mean. 5 sounds a better number. 5 stamps and you get a free class.
I think there might be something interesting in something tactile that you develop. So whether it's something physical that you give someone in exchange for their contribution, and then they can either they can trade that in, or if maybe they don't use it a lot or they want to keep it because they like it so much and they get an emotion, like kind of like, you know, the wristbands that, you know, I've donated this charity, I'm associated with this group, I care about this issue. There might be people, particularly the kind of wealthier ones, maybe, for whom they're using it for more as a community building thing and wanting locally sourced food and supplies and things like that. They might not trade that in and keep it instead as a physical representation of their contribution.
I like this idea of trading time in the sense that it's something personal, it's something you're not going to give away to someone to use. Because if you actually physically make the currency time physical, then you could give it to someone else who didn't invest in the community.
Mm-hmm.
So I like it, the fact that it's owned by the person. So if you give time, you receive time, but you can't give it away to someone else.
Mm-hmm.
We were looking at a few examples of where systems like this have been set up before. I mean, Finley was talking to us about a business plan and what things that are doing a similar job and looking at them and seeing how they do it and then stealing all of their ideas and it being wonderful. But at the Edinburgh Fringe Festival, there's a theatre which has a performance space and has a cafe, the same as this one. And if the performers want to use the space, they can, but they have to work in the cafe. So, and that's been going for, it's called the Forest Fringe, it's been going for quite a long time. So in that situation, it has become sustainable. However, performers don't tend to be that wealthy. So what you were saying about sort of just keeping things for the sentimental value and stuff like that probably wouldn't come into that as much. But yeah, there are things we've been looking at where it has been successful in the past.
The idea as well is kind of designing a business model that you could be flexible enough to adapt to every community, because some people will be very some community will be very access to craft, for example, or sustainable skill share, like the skill share things. But we didn't want to focus on one specific kind of skills. We wanted to create a business model that every community can take and adapt to their own needs and wants. And
I can imagine a lot of people would be, say if they had to teach a class first, so that they had the currency to go and view a class or it could be taught from somebody else. A lot of people would be nervous to teach to a group and wondered how you might like overcome that barrier for a lot of people and invite them in.
Well, I think when you open up any venue, you need to start getting a lot of publicity and stuff like that. And in the case of this, maybe the first things we do would be give free classes, taster classes, and we'd give classes on teaching other people. And I think that actually, even for me, because I do as part of my course facilitation skills, and when you realise that you've got something that is useful enough for you to teach someone else, confidence-wise, that's a huge thing, because you're like, oh, I've got some stuff and other people don't have it and I can give it to them and that's useful. And it really makes you feel quite valuable because you've got something that other people want. So I think that in itself is quite an interesting sort of process. But you're right, it is terrifying. And I still don't like it.
Because we're building the community as well, the trust is building by, okay, I saw the space, I'm teaching dance because I really like it, you should come and try. And so it's really people connections. It's not that just I come to a strange place where people just use the space. No, they own the space, they design it, they develop it.
Yeah, I reckon that, I reckon, just continuing on the last point, I reckon that the teaching classes should be like very much an integral thing, you know, constantly running class. But it's probably more important to inspire people with what they want to teach before you sell them that they can learn to teach. I think that the teaching classes should be very much a central part though.
I think it's,
The good thing as well is that you can start to discover the place just by being a customer in the cafe. So there's this public space that you kind of make building trust, because you can use it very freely. Just come there, have a coffee, discuss with people who are using the workshops, and then kind of discover in different stage.
And what would you do with the children? Like, how would you make them contribute for the time, or do you have specific lessons?
I don't have any problem with making children work. I think it's an excellent idea. I mean, because I grew up in the West Country and you're kind of mucking out pigs by the age of 6. But I think that it's about people donating time, but not everyone doing the same tasks. It's about finding things that are, what's the word, appropriate. So there's nothing wrong with getting kids with a massive bag of potatoes, scrubbing them, or peeling carrots, or kind of things that they might be quite tedious, but it
Kids
teaches
are very,
you that
very
effort.
creative as well. They
Yeah, of
have
course.
lots of skills they would be willing to share, and it would actually be beneficial for them as well.
Definitely. No, I think that of course it would have to change. You'd have to change what you're asking children to do, but the same is, you'd have to ask someone who has quite profound mobility problems. You're not going to make them sort of wander around between the toilets because that could end badly. So it's thinking about each individual, what skills they have, because everyone has them, and what those skills can be used for. And what you're saying about children.
I really liked the talk this morning of this group called the Resonance, where she was, when volunteers came to her space, she was actually asking, what do you want to do? And that's very much where we want to develop. So what can you bring to the community, and then what can you take?
I think it's great. I think I'd love to see a kid teaching a class of adults some kind of skill that they think they have and maybe the adults don't actually have. Maybe it's imagination or play or something.
I mean, there was a performance in Glasgow called Haircuts by Children by Macmillan Dowdy, where
I saw that.
taught people to cut heads and cut hair for a week. It was an interesting and quite controversial social experiment, and there was a lot of very odd haircuts. But it was the idea of reversing the roles. Like, who says that children can't teach us anything, and who says that if you give them a pair of scissors, it will be bad?
No, it's true.
Interesting.
I've seen something like kids in museums where you put kids around museums and record them and make an audio too, that kind of idea. But it's still very valid kind of voices to listen to. So it's nice. I think, the next step of thinking when people come into the cafe, if they've never been in before, they don't know what it is, how they know it's different to any other cafe, like before or while sitting down. So that kind of visual representation in the space and how people kind of interact with that, maybe see people's points, see who's kind of got loads of time. Like you were saying, maybe if it's a physical thing they get, or just actually you kind of get some kind of leaderboard or some kind of key kind of faces on the walls that start to populate the space.
Physical foursquare.
Yeah. So handprints, all these kind of things. I think, that would be a really nice thing to explore next if you were developing it further.
One thing I was going to ask about is, I think obviously in your research process you went out and you asked people, you teased out what they could do for people. But I mean, from my experience of